welcome. It's time for another beautiful Wednesday morning edition of Wake Up Nigeria. So glad you could join us. Today's episode is all about taking a deep breath, just breathe in, but not too deep. Easing into your day.
I wish you knew the story behind that. Well done. One new.
Finding a midweek calm.
All right. Okay.
Well, there's a lot happening.
Yes, there's a lot happening, really. Wednesdays are all about balance, reflecting on the start of the week, and getting ready to wind down for the weekend. So this morning, we're going to bring you everything you need to stay relaxed, refreshed, and ready to take on whatever the day brings.
Exactly. We have a soothing lineup for you. It's going to be an uplifting musical performance. I'm thinking uplifting,
Uplift.
Yeah. Okay.
Second one. Okay.
Okay. But there is a lot of gentle inspiration coming your way this midweek edition as well. It's all about you today. Peace of mind, happiness, and your well-being.
Absolutely. So grab your favorite cup of beverage, find a comfy spot, and let us guide you through a serene and soothing start to your day. We're here to make sure your Wednesday is as smooth as it can be,
Exactly. Perfect mix of everything. There's always food, there's stories. We're going to be having interesting conversations as well.
The conversations in particular.
We want you to be part of it, of course. But let's tell them who we are. My name is Titilayo Onyison.
And my name is Mary Bashua Alimi. And now you can watch us from absolutely anywhere across the world. And that's live. All you need to do is join us on the Facebook.
Yeah, of course.
At TVC Entertainment. And also via
YouTube
TVC Entertainment on YouTube.
Exactly.
Okay.
YouTube is one of our favorite spaces right now because we're streaming live right now. And you can always send that link to someone. You can always subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you'll be alerted when we go live.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we should also let you know that GOTV channel 16 is where you can catch us live as well, UHF band 49. And we're also on social media. Find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at TVC Entertainment _. Follow us and stay connected. Okay?
There's quite a lot coming up. Wednesdays is all about positivity, and of course we're going to be making sure we do that today. Miracle Ihuoma is going to be joining us for relationship this morning, and he's a psychologist, he's a life coach. He has been into family life therapy for over a decade. And today's topic is one I know that you want to be a part of, keeping the spark alive in long-term relationship. Okay.
And of course, let's check out the weather. Time for the news update on Wake Up Nigeria. I am Mary Bashua Alimi. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, says the Army will resist all calls for undemocratic intervention in governance, as it is not poised to lose the prestige it has painstakingly built in the last 25 years. Now, he spoke at the opening ceremony of the Chief of Army Staff combined second and third quarters. That's the conference 2024 held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom. TVC News' Miriam Daniels reports that Governor Umo Eno formally declared open this year's events.
The annual Chief of Army Staff Conference is holding this year in Uyo. With arrival of the host governor, the conference kick-started. As he takes the podium, Governor Eno commended the Nigerian Army and other security agencies for their commitment to the peace and security of the state and the nation. He advises them to remain apolitical. As he says, his administration in the past donated 100 million naira to widows of fallen heroes in the state to improve their lives.
As the army of our great nation, your role in securing the nation is paramount, and the government is to do all that is possible to ensure that the army is well equipped. That is why we created the Joint Maritime Operations Task Force and procured and deployed 14 patrol gunboats in response to the literal nature of our state and the threat posed by sea pirates, militants, and kidnappers within our waterways.
Then, the Chief of Army Staff, during his speech, noted that food and social security issues can result in physical security challenges. He stated that the Nigerian Army, under his leadership, has launched several welfare programs for members of the force. The Army Chief states the commitment of the force to boost food availability in the country by supporting the federal government in its economic prosperity plan.
The Nigerian Army will not allow itself to be used to undemocratically sell some interest to power. As a service that received the most image bashing as a fallout of previous military interventions in Nigeria, the Nigerian Army is now poised to losing the new prestige it has painstakingly built in the past 25 years.
3 beneficiaries received checks under the welfare scheme of the force, and the week-long event will climax on Friday with a closing ceremony. Miriam Daniels, TVC News, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State.
Away from Akwa Ibom to Abuja, where the federal government yesterday received 10,000 doses of the Genio vaccine as part of its response to mitigate the spread of Mpox. Now, receiving the donation, Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Muyi Aino, says the vaccines will be used to help protect the nation's vulnerable population who remain at high risk. The current Mpox outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization 2 weeks ago.
Number of cases, many of them are in the south, but of course we're going to have to work with the states to develop state-specific plans, to make sure that the vaccine is appropriately deployed. Now we have the vaccine. I witnessed the vaccines being, some pictures and videos of the vaccines being loaded on the trucks to our store today. So anytime from this week with the micro-planning rollout and the implementation engagement with the states will kick off right away.
Nigeria government has put together a vaccination plan. So there's a plan how to use these vaccines effectively, how to make sure we get the most effect out of this 10,000 vaccine donation. So that's very much why Nigeria was chosen to receive this first batch. We will continue to work with Nigeria on efforts to stop the spread of the monkeypox illness, and we will continue to look at how we can help Nigeria.
Wow, welcome back. It's time for us to find out what's up and about right here on Wake Up Nigeria. Winnie, good morning.
Hi, morning.
Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, nice to be
I think Winnie did not have enough of bed.
What? Enough what?
When you say outfit data, you understand.
Oh,
Like she wants to just, she wanted to be in bed all day.
Winfrey educated me. This is called loungewear.
Exactly.
Loungewear. It's the design.
It's slipwear fashion.
Yeah,
That's what it's called.
I've been saying we should be wearing pajamas on the show sometimes. You know?
How dare you? This is not pajamas.
No.
It's loungewear.
Loungewear. I'll wear my own loungewear.
But you make it look amazing. And it's
Thank
the right
you.
color. She got the color memo.
Right, and you didn't. But you're blending in nicely.
Hallelujah. All right. You know, I like the fact that we started this on a light note, considering the heavy stuff we have to deal with.
Yeah.
We came across a story someone shared about being bitter because of something her husband did several years ago. So apparently, husband's nephew abused her daughter, and after sexually assaulting him, he was sent back to his mom, or assaulting her rather, sent back to his mom. Now, years down the line, the man says, oh, the boy has to come back to the house to get some assistance to learn his skills so he could hustle abroad, in quotes. And then the woman was like, no way, you can't be in the same house with my daughter again after those years. And the next thing, the man started victim shaming his daughter and saying she's, the mom was to blame for everything that happened and the girl wasn't so innocent. Now, let's remember, the boy who did the deed was 18 years old and the girl who was abused was 10 years old at the time. Yet the dad blames her for what happens. And so the lady says she's never, ever going to forgive him. She stayed married, by the way, I should point that out. So Now their daughter is in her mid-20s, but she is still hurting after all these years. So I don't know, what's your take on that? Though?
Key points. The man is a pastor.
Ah, yes, I forgot to add. Though I didn't think I should.
Why? Very important.
So you don't want to. So I didn't want to take the focus off the girl and the girl child. Once you add pastor in quotes into it, it becomes a turn. It takes another turn. I was thinking about the mother and the daughter and their relationship right now, and whether this child was taken care of after the fact, after this abuse happened. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Then you now start thinking about the husband and wife's relationship. There was another thing of note in that particular post where the man said if she doesn't want the boy around, she should resign or something.
From her job.
From her job or something like that.
In my opinion.
I was a bit confused about that.
I figured it out eventually. You remember when we first talked about it in the makeup room?
Yeah.
There was that confusion, but then I understood. So he's also, that's another way to blame her, that because she was working, was why her daughter became, in quotes, loose
so if she
enough
was home,
to, that she was home, that would not have happened.
Wow.
But now that even the daughter is grown, because as at that time, the daughter was probably in her late 20s, as at the time the boy was coming. As far as it's concerned, the girl needs her still to be set in her ways positively.
So,
in this case, mothers are to blame for anything that happens.
We discussed this with our parenting expert yesterday, briefly, not in depth, but we've been talking about abuse for the whole month of August. And one of the key things is to listen to the child. And now this is not just for the mothers to listen to the child, the father should listen to the child too, and believe that child. And also make sure that these offenders are reported. Now, whatever consequences of this boy's actions, in my opinion, he deserved at the time, and he still does. And justice was not done for that child in the immediate. The fact that the wife stayed in that marriage, knowing that this young man was not going to pay for what he had done to this daughter, that is a major questionable choice for this woman. This is the same man that's now questioning your child's virtue because of something he literally let go of. Justice has not been served, in my opinion, and I feel like the mother is right to feel bad about it, and I'm glad that she's coming out to speak about it now, but I think she needs to have a conversation with her daughter.
So there's a big issue with, people who are abused, especially sexual abuse. There's this, hush, hush. So it doesn't affect your future. Hush, hush. So it doesn't ruin our family name. Hush, hush this, hush, hush that, without thought of the eventual results of the incident on the child, because it's actually a traumatic experience. And so the child doesn't get help, and everything is swept under the carpet. And why does the child not get help in most cases? Because you are afraid that the counselor the child will talk to, the child will give too much information that might still damage reputation, which brings us to something I believe we should discuss one of these days. How many counselors are actually not professional enough to understand the meaning of confidentiality, because many of them are not. But then back to this, we have to be very, very pragmatic. And this has nothing to do with just the female child. The male child as well. It's even worse for a boy that has been sodomized, where he's told that, people will look at you in one kind of way, don't say anything. And then that child keeps quiet, and the child is hurting. And then the child lashes out in future. Maybe goes left or does something crazy, and you're saying, it's evil spirits. The evil spirit is you, the parents, who refuse to take action when you could have changed that boy's life for good, especially after such an event. It's really unfortunate how many parents do not handle this well.
So I will say, I have different angles to actually bring this in from. But I'll start from the fact that if the right thing was done in the first place, there will be no reason for him to even have the opportunity to come back to learn his skill to go abroad. Why? Because according to the criminal code, he's liable for life imprisonment.
He was even 18 already.
Life imprisonment for literally committing such an offense. So if that was actually done at the moment, and this is not a situation of whether it would... Once you find out your daughter was raped by someone that lives with you, straight to the police station, straight. They should first come and carry him. then you have the conversation with your husband, maybe after he comes back from work, that, oh, see what I noticed, though, the boy is already in police station, or maybe take it from there. And I actually totally don't agree with you that, fine, we should isolate the father and not talk about the fact that he's a pastor, he's a man, and all of that, because, okay, it is the woman and the child's responsibility, I don't know, the woman's responsibility to make sure that her daughter literally has absolute care. That is actually good. But then again, this now literally continues to do certain damage that affects us till now. The truth is that men, when it comes to the upbringing of children, literally neglect their responsibilities, because it is a community that raises a child. However, fine, of course, as a daughter, it is only reasonable your daughter is closer to you. But in situations, there are certain situations where we see girls even closer to their dads than to their moms. Men have the responsibility to make sure your family is protected from your wife to your children. And the truth is, when I even read the story, the truth is the first thing that came to my mind. Are you sure it's not even this man that ever complains of this?
In fact,
to be honest, that's why I just
and he's just using the boy as a cover.
Do you understand? And I thought about the fact that, okay, you know what? Okay, maybe the girl is old enough to have said it was that dad actually did it by now. That's the first one, because the way he literally just took, because I know men are usually very protective over their children.
We're really passionate about this.
It's terrible.
And I think
for you to be a man of God in that situation,
you see that I didn't want to even add that part, but there's actually a lot of sense in what you said. But you know, unfortunately, we cannot continue this conversation.
Maybe he had done it before to somebody else. That's
and this is the kind of person that will counsel others.
Do you understand?
You know what? Let's take a break. You're watching Wake Up Nigeria. Let's have your opinion. Hashtag Wake Up Nigeria on TV.
It's good to put about the abuser is late now, by the way.
Welcome back. It's time for us to take a quick look at what's happening on the covers of the dailies this morning. Mary is with me.
You remembered. Yeah, it's good to be here for the news, for the newspaper headlines.
We're going to be starting with The Punch this morning. Today is Wednesday, August 28th. Can you believe it? The month is almost done. 28th of August, 2024. And starting on the covers of The Punch, it says here, flights of fancy. Governors slammed for wasting 160 billion naira on unviable airports. Nasarawa, Yobe, others beg federal government to take over airports shunned by airlines. At the top left there, Lagos-Calabar Highway demolition. 100 landowners team up for fresh legal war. It also says here, external auditors to examine NNPC 2.6 trillion naira subsidy claim. And beside the masthead there, it says, with current hardship, electorate won't vote APC, according to PDP chieftain. INEC rules out PVC collection by proxy. Page 14 has more on that. Beneath the photo story there, says AMCON set to sell Ibadan Disco. IG vows to rescue 2,149 kidnapped victims. Lagos conducts Red Line Rail test run today. The photo stories there are children attending classes outside and inside a dilapidated building in Yemen on Tuesday.
That's actually a lot. 2,149 kidnapped victims. It's almost as if somebody knows somebody who knows somebody that was kidnapped these days. And it's sad.
It's so scary you should say that.
Scary, yeah.
A member of my staff also has a sister-in-law that just over the weekend was taken in a bus of about 18 people, her and her mother. Wow. And I could just see the pain and the distress they were going through. It's just so sad that it has gotten to this stage, to this high a number of kidnapped victims in the most recent past. And it is scary to think of what needs to be done in order to get these people back. But we'll go back to that later on. I wanted to touch on the fact that, one more time?
The red
line, yes. Yeah. Red line, I'm not sure the route, or is it route now? route of the red line presently. I think we're going to find out exactly where that route passes through and then get you that information. But they're doing test run, meaning that eventually they will start working.
So I've got the Nigerian Tribune here, and it says, end killings, banditry. Can Sultan urge federal government, say recent bloodshed alarming. Here we also have 45 years after ex-rep member refunds federal government student loan of 1,200. with 3.1 million naira. That's 45 years after the former rep member refunds it. Rivers Police launched manhunts for kidnappers of a director. 13 arrested over attack on Oyo Commissioner's convoy. No timeline yet. I have no idea what just happened, but Titi, perhaps you could just continue
it says
from the...
here,
okay, I have
no
it.
timeline yet.
Yeah.
Oronsai report implementation.
That's from the federal government.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then we have MPOX, states gear up for emerging threats as U.S. donates 10,000 doses of vaccine. Nigeria, others to benefit from WHO's $87.4 million fund. Still on the front page of the Tribune, LP moves to sanction Governor Oti, sets up disciplinary committee. Ogunboda community seeks federal government intervention over violent attacks. Fuel crisis, lepers in Lagos resort to drinking contaminated water. Health experts warn of public health crisis. Nigerian Tribune also has this, Tinubu Chinese president to meet in Beijing. Of course, we know about all of that has been going on diplomatically regarding that. And then ICPC inaugurates anti-corruption units in FIRS. Finally, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, deepening Nigeria-BBC relations are crucial, and that's coming from the information minister. All of these stories and more you can catch in the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Yeah, I think we should move on to the next paper.
Yes, please.
We have, let me see if I can load this now.
The Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's see if I can find that one. All right, so on the cover of the Nation, okay.
CDS,
it's not loaded yet.
Okay, CDS, COAS, military won't give in to anti-democratic calls. And the writer says civil rule is best for Nigeria, says EU. Army goes into massive food production.
I also have here a similar headline to other papers here. Nigeria gets 10,000 Mpox vaccine doses. WHO needs $87.4 million on this. What Tinubu China trip means for Nigeria by presidency. CBN to issue 2.2 billion naira treasury bills in Q4. Can Sultan decry resurgence of kidnappings and killings? And let's see, right at the bottom there, it says Rivers Council poll, Fubara loyalists shop for alternative platform to contest.
So the thing is, when it comes to vaccines, many people are now very wary because of certain information that has been going around and are yet to be debunked. So, well, we'll just see how it goes eventually. I believe the next paper is Daily Independent. Is that it? Okay,
Let's
so the
see
Daily Independent says Nigeria moves to avoid international economic penalties, restrictive measures, vows to exit terrorist financing countries list by May 2025, says country has 9 months left to exit grey list deadline. Still here, it says Tinubu to visit China over real project, other MOU deals. Mpox, Lagos on high alert against importation of aggressive variants. EFCC chairman urges National Assembly to pass whistleblower protection law, long overdue. Nigerian military will continue to defend democracy. That's coming from the CDS. Ex-APC National Auditor Mugalu quits a party. IGP harps on citizens' participation in national security, seeks collaboration from stakeholders. Here we also have 2 years after commissioning Ekiti 20 billion naira airport yet to take off. Stakeholders worry over 90% airports are not self-sustaining, say they are constructed only for political reason. Up here, we have the bold one here. Labour Party rejects Governor Oti's loan move to convene NEC and, tackles INEC for not inviting it to quarterly consultative meeting, raises disciplinary committee to tackle undisciplined members. NAFDAC denies reports advising Nigerians to avoid bread. And for those who have been wondering, that's actually been trending for a while.
Avoid bread?
Yes, there was actually some kind of in quotes, supposedly from NAFDAC. It was actually trending, broadcast messages and all, saying that Nigerian bread is not good enough for consumption.
Wow.
That they contain certain chemicals that are unsafe. And it was actually trending. And so they've come out to debunk those claims.
So it didn't come directly from NAFDAC.
Apparently
and the
not.
truth is, people
Even though it was signed
create,
NAFDAC, but
they can create
these days,
all sorts of
a
things.
lot can be created.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
But avoiding bread in Nigeria, bread is a staple, is one of the biggest staples from around the world. In Nigeria, I don't think there's any family that doesn't eat bread at some point in time during the day. Not even the
week. Wow.
All right, then. We have with us also the Guardian newspaper, and it has here its major headline: $48 per barrel production cost drowns 60% of Nigeria's oil earnings. There is an infographic there on the cover showing the production cost per barrel by country, comparing quite a few countries: Libya, Iraq, Brazil, Nigeria, of course, Saudi Arabia, US, and quite a few others, including the UAE. Nigeria's $10 per barrel production cost target is an aspiration undermined by insecurity, inefficiency, logistics, overhead costs, corruption, and regulatory challenges. $10 per barrel. All right. We also have here 900 days on CDHR task. CDHR task Sanwo-Olu on justice for late Bamishe. And it also says telephone service quality may drop as telcos consider load shedding. Really? Load shedding?
Load shedding, well, it's needed, I believe. That's why it's doing that.
All right.
However, the big one for me, though, is the food insecurity.
Yeah.
Federal government banks on dry season farming as flood devastates others. Because, my goodness, we're talking about insecurity and other things, but then flood now showed its ugly head, and a lot was lost.
A lot of crops.
Food-wise, a lot of crops were destroyed by the flood. It's beyond devastating, especially for farmers that were greening, being hopeful that things will be better. But hey.
Wow. Okay, quite a lot to address on the covers of the papers this morning. We hope to hear your thoughts and comments on some of the headlines as well. Use our hashtag WakeUpNigeria on and tag us on Instagram, WakeUpNigeriaTVC. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching your favorite breakfast show, Wake Up Nigeria, right here on TVC. And now it's time for nutrition. And today I have with me Nneka Ogboy, who is an advocate for child nutrition. And she also is a visionary founder of MASH Baby Food. Welcome back to Wake Up Nigeria for the 4th time.
Yes,
well done. This is going to be our final conversation.
I've enjoyed everyone.
It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be wrapping this up talking about meal prep, which is actually very important because, past weeks we're talking about meal planning, how it saves costs, its importance, and all of that. So now let's just round it off now with meal prep, right? Also for the benefits of those just joining us for the first time and all of that. So tell me, what is meal prep? Let's start from there.
All right, excellent. So it's something that we tend to see a lot of or hear about a lot, right? And many times we're like, should we even pay attention to this thing? What is it? So basically when we're talking about meal prepping, right, we're talking about making your foods easier for you to use, right? So all the things that you need to do to get it ready for use or consumption, right? So that can include your chopping, your prepping, your cleaning, how you package things, right? And so that then feeds into the meal planning that we've been talking about. So you prep the items and then you use that to create your weekly menu, for example. So a weekly meal prep meal plan is the most common version that you will find in homes. Some people are super hardcore with this and they go up to monthly, right? But it's always good to start slow. So planning for a week is usually a good place to start.
Okay, because I actually think it's very important because a lot of times on social media, we just say, oh, meal prep, my meal prep. And I'm just like, isn't that food that we're eating? Why are people making it complicated like this? All these people, do you understand? So, it's important we actually talk about the benefits, right? Because as much as, yes, we think that, I think I've done meal prep before, like having a calendar for the week and things like that. I think it has actually helped in a whole lot of ways. So could you give us that those ways it actually helps and how it actually is beneficial if you're actually meal prep?
Yes, so definitely. So when you're meal prepping, meal planning, for me personally, I find that it does three things. It saves you time, it saves you money, and most importantly, it saves you your sanity.
Yeah.
And I'll share why
Thinking
I say
of what
that.
to cook, true.
Definitely,
Time, true,
exactly.
true.
So for a time, you spend a couple hours on the weekend, you prep and you prepare things that you're going to eat during the week, right? That saves you all the time that you need during the week to get on with your life, whether it's work, your family. You're not spending time in the kitchen as much as you would if you didn't have anything. The money aspect, we talked about buying in bulk, right? So if you're cooking in bulk, you're most likely buying in bulk. And so you take advantage of the discounts that come with that. So it saves you money. And then the last one I said is your sanity, just like you said. You know, at Mash Baby Food, a lot of all our customers are parents, right? And the one thing that we keep hearing all the time is that question, what are we going to
I think that's
eat?
worse than the whole
It is
cooking
traumatizing
process.
for families, honestly.
It is.
So when you meal prep and meal plan, it takes that burden away from you.
Yes, it literally is like proactive eating now,
Yes.
or proactive feeding, which actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because by the time you plan everything ahead of time, during the week, you're not thinking about all of that. You literally just run through it, and it's actually simple to go by. Okay, so I noticed you kept on using meal prep, meal planning. So is there a difference? What's the difference between meal prep and meal planning?
Yeah, so they go hand in hand.
Okay.
But the prep is just the things you do to the food. So for example...
the actual food?
To the food itself.
Okay,
so for example, we prep before storing in my home, right?
Okay.
So I mentioned before I would buy a basket of tomatoes, right? And we use that generally for stew or jollof kinds of food. So when we get it from the market, we prep it. And that means washing, steaming, blending, and freezing. That is meal prepping, right? And then when it comes to planning for the week, we just know, okay, we take a jar of already steamed and blended tomatoes and we use that to cook. That's the planning portion. So they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So now let's come down to tips of meal prepping, because I think it's very important. Because one thing to say, okay, buy in bulk, okay, schedule your meals for the week. But now it's very important that we know how to store certain kinds of foods when we actually bring them into our homes. Now let's talk about things that we generally use, right? I mean, of course, if we're talking about food planning, it's also important that we take into consideration the fact that we need to add some nutritious meals to our food. So for instance, we have vegetables. Now, you spoke about tomatoes. So just help us now. Onions, tomatoes, peppers, let's say carrots, cabbage, lettuce, all those things. And then meats, proteins, how best can we prep them and store them to limit wastage?
All right, so I talked about tomatoes, what I do with tomatoes, right?
Yes.
And then for something like meats, for example, in my household, what we do is when we have chicken or beef, we clean and then season, bag it and freeze it.
Yeah, so that's marinating.
It is marinating for a long time.
Yes.
So when it's time to cook, we just take out a bag that's already seasoned and then we're good to go with cooking that. So that saves us time. Things like beans, right? You would normally cook beans. My kids don't like the skin on the beans, so we always have to peel. So we do that when we buy the beans. So we just soak it, peel the skin off, and bag it. We can use that for moi moi,
for akara.
So it's half the work.
Because one of the major challenges of making moi moi akara is actually that peeling process.
Honestly, right? And so that is also a form.
So it just simplifies the whole idea of cooking. So you're not thinking of starting from scratch. You know that things are already prepped ahead of time and all of that. Okay, so let's talk about vegetables like carrots, lettuce, cabbage, and all that.
With vegetables, they're a bit different because they don't last as long.
And fruits too.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, vegetables don't necessarily last as long. So you want to preserve those maybe in your fridge. For example, if it's leafy vegetables, you want to keep them dry. So you want to wrap them in newspaper or paper towel, just something that absorbs the moisture and it can keep in your fridge. That's where the weekly buying comes in, right? Because you can't buy lettuce to store for a month, for example. But when you meal plan and you know you're going to use lettuce this week, then you know that that's what you're going to buy. And this is another way that meal planning and prepping helps you save cost, right? Because you know you're going to use that, so you buy it. And it doesn't go to waste, right? Rather than you just going to the store and seeing this beautiful bulb of lettuce, let me buy. Then you don't use it, and it goes to waste, right? So it saves that cost.
That cost right as well. There. Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So you plan, or rather probably drop a schedule before you go to the market, and when you get to the market, when you come back, you probably prep it a bit and then cook. Okay, so with this prepping and planning, how often do you cook in a week? I'm just using yourself as an example now.
Yes, so that really depends on the family. I do it for a week.
Okay.
Some families, like I said, they would do it for 2 weeks, a month. So find what works for you. I know a lot of times we see online what other people are doing and we're like, let me save that.
Yes.
I want to do this. I want to do that.
Yes.
There's a popular saying, no do pass your power, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
do what works for you because that is the plan that you're most likely to stick to.
True.
Right? If you go ahead and try to do this elaborate thing, you may not end up sticking to it. And then you find that at the end of the day, you're eating foods that you don't want your family eating. You're running to convenient foods, for example, and many times they're overly processed and not nutritious.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much. I'll say that was a banger as a wrap for this nutrition segment, staple for August. Thank you so much, Nega, for being here. It was amazing having you. And now your sleep is back to you. it's all under your control. Hopefully we'll have you soon. All right, and that's it on nutrition right here on this Wednesday edition of Wake Up Nigeria. We'll go on a quick break right now. When we come back, still so much more happening right here on Wake Up Nigeria.
Welcome back to It's time for the second hour. It's Wake Up Nigeria, and we are halfway through the week. It's about finding that perfect rhythm, that balance to carry us through to the weekend. We're still here bringing you all that calm, all that positivity, and hopefully all the goodness you need for a Wednesday.
Yes, it's time to just take things easy, enjoy the day, unfold. Yes, let the day unfold at its own pace. That usually helps a lot. We're here to keep that energy going with more stories, more inspiration, and a touch of tranquility. How does tranquility brighten your day? What will brighten your day?
So sometimes some people just need that peaceful moment, before they leave the house. But they need someone to sort of sprinkle some hope and some joy and some positivity into their morning so that everything they do for the rest of the day, no matter what hits them, they can still put a smile on their face.
Yes, no matter conditions. That song always plays in my head when someone says put a smile on your face. But then, of course, it's so good to know you're right there watching us live this morning. And you can do so as well from absolutely anywhere across the world just by downloading the TVC app, okay?
Yeah.
And that's on Android or iOS, all right? And then, of course, I should let you know that this beautiful lady is a Titi Layo.
Aww.
And
this wonderful woman is Mary Bashua Alimi. We are your hosts with Winfrey. She is somewhere in the building as well. We're having some amazing vibes this Wednesday. We are on GOTV channel 16, UHF channel 49, StarTimes channel 121. We're also on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of them chat. TVC Entertainment _.
Make sure you use the hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC to make comments on the show. Now, let's tell you what we have in store for you for this second hour, okay? Yeah. Now, we have birthday shout-outs coming up, celebrating you and your loved ones this morning on Wake Up Nigeria.
Then, of course, our relationship discussion this Wednesday with Mr. Miracle Ihuoma, dynamic speaker, author, clinical psychologist, life coach, spiritual shepherd, and so much more. Now, he's worked with many different individuals, families, organizations as a therapist, and he has, of course, done so many conferences as a speaker over the past 13 years. Our topic on relationship today is keeping the spark alive in long-term relationships. Okay, I think, man, if anyone has a clothing line, that's the kind of,
He's got to build. He's got to build
everything. Well. Talking about that later on.
Yes, of course. And we have Grammy Award-winning
You can tell when
wow.
she has something
she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to
Why you push?
I cannot be bothered.
Nothing.
Hey,
yeah,
Lord, see somebody adding to the site, you what?
Speaking
Anyways, he launched a groundbreaking football academy.
What are we talking about?
Burner Boy. Burner Boy FA. And all of that. And it's literally targeted at training young Nigerians from age, I think, 18 to 21.
Is it 18 to, I think it's
16.
14 to 16 or so.
No, I think 16. I know it's 21.
I know it's 16.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 16 to 21.
And I think I saw
all of that
as well.
And all of that. So the idea is also to expose them to international football clubs so they can actually scout and all
If
of
you
that. I
remember the
think it's
conversation we
amazing.
had yesterday about the fact that WAEC and NECO, WAEC and NECO, they said
rest
you have to
on
be
Amata
18 before you can get into university. So
Meaning
between
what?
that 16 and
You should go and
18,
learn football.
go and learn football.
What if football is not your calling?
Go and learn football.
What is
At least
football
try. Go for academy first.
Anyways, don't direct diversity.
I'm on.
Kudos to Burna Boy.
Wow. Thanks
for doing
cutting me
this.
off.
I think he's adding a value into the system. I mean, this is a way of giving back, right? Helping young Nigerians. At least not all of them join them to the music.
I find it really admirable.
Yeah,
I'll admit, I find it really admirable. I always like it when people do stuff, giving back.
There's only one thing I'm going to add.
So you'll be making money from it.
There's only one thing I'm going to add, and I'm hoping Mama Burna gets to see this. Please have a female footballers academy as well, not just the guys.
Titi's daughter is
yes,
definitely
my daughter
going to be
plays
on that one.
football, and
likes
we're
football.
looking for good academies for girls. She has to end up going for football training with other boys, and it's because there's just not enough
I know
academies
Sister
for
Soshella
girls.
has something that has to do with that. And the Lagos
Yeah.
State government, either the president's
work on
wife or
that.
something.
We'll work on
I'll help you check that out.
Mama Burna, that one is for you. All right, then let's take the weather update. We'll be back.
Time for the news update on Wake Up Nigeria. I am Mary Bashua Alimi. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, says the Army will resist all calls for undemocratic intervention in governance, as it is not poised to lose the prestige it has painstakingly built in the last 25 years. He spoke at the opening ceremony of the Chief of Army Staff Combined Second and Third Quarters Conference 2024, held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. TVC News' Miriam Daniels reports that Governor Umo Eno formally declared open this year's event.
The annual Chief of Army Staff Conference is holding this year in Uyo. With the arrival of the host governor, the conference kick-started. As he takes the podium, Governor Eno commended the Nigerian Army and other security agencies for their commitment to the peace and security of the state and the nation. He advises them to remain apolitical, as he says his administration in the past donated 100 million naira to widows of fallen heroes in the state to improve their lives.
As the army of our great nation, your role in securing the nation is paramount, and the government is to do all that is possible to ensure that the army is well equipped. That is why we created the Joint Maritime Operations Task Force and procured and deployed 14 patrol gunboats in response to the literal nature of our state and the threat posed by sea pirates, militants, and kidnappers within our waterways.
Then, the Chief of Army Staff, during his speech, noted that food and social security issues can result in physical security challenges. He stated that the Nigerian Army, under his leadership, has launched several welfare programs for members of the force. The Army Chief states the commitment of the force to boost food availability in the country by supporting the federal government in its economic prosperity plan.
The Nigerian Army will not allow itself to be used to undemocratically sell some interest to power. As a service that received the most image bashing as a fallout of previous military interventions in Nigeria, the Nigerian Army is now poised to losing the new prestige it has painstakingly built in the past 25 years.
3 beneficiaries received checks under the welfare scheme of the force, and the week-long event will climax on Friday with a closing ceremony. Miriam Daniels, TVC News, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State.
Away from Akwa Ibom State to Abuja, where the federal government yesterday received 10,000 doses of the Jynneos vaccine as part of its response to mitigate the spread of Mpox. Receiving the donation, Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Mui Aino, said the vaccines will be used to help protect the nation's vulnerable population who remain at high risk. The current Mpox outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization 2 weeks ago.
distinguished members of the press, are we good? August 14th declared the public...
Outside Nigeria, Ukraine says it now controls 100 Russian settlements and 1,294 square kilometers of Russian territory. The incursion into the Kursk region began 3 weeks ago. Last week, President Zelensky said Ukraine controlled more than 1,250 square meters of Russian territory. Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Alexander Syrskyi, also said Ukraine has captured 594 Russian soldiers. Earlier, Russia launched another wave of strikes on Ukraine, with 4 people killed a day after one of its biggest air attacks of the war. Zelensky says Kiev will undoubtedly respond to Russia for this and all other attacks.
Ukraine says it now has 100 Russian settlements under its control. Its top military commander says the country is continuing its...
And that's it on the news update for today on Wake Up Nigeria. We still have so much more to come. Just stay with us. We'll be back.
Welcome back. It's time for our relationship discussion this Wednesday. And yeah, after a while in some relationships, that set of butterflies that used to flutter in your chest or in your belly whenever you see your significant other, after a while, it just feels like those butterflies might not be flying as high. Or maybe that spark or glint in your eye whenever you see your partner might not be as bright after a while. What is it about that spark that sometimes begins to fizzle? We have here a Miracle Ihuoma, a dynamic speaker, author, clinical psychologist, life coach, spiritual shepherd, and so much more. He's worked in many different, with organizations, family life therapist that has been with us for the past few weeks right here on Wake Up Nigeria. He is also a writer, and I have a feeling he's written a few things on this particular topic. We will be talking about your book sometime soon. Today's topic is keeping the spark alive in long-term relationships. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be here once again.
All right, so we need to do two different things. Maybe let's define long-term relationships, and then, of course, what the spark actually is. Talk to us.
Okay, long-term relationships. Well, maybe relationships that have lasted over, if we're talking about premarital relationship now, for over a year.
Okay.
Because the concept of infatuation, for instance, which is an intense feeling you have towards somebody, has been said to last up to 1 year.
Okay.
So if you have an infatuation over somebody, it can last for up to a year.
Okay.
So that means that after a year, if that was the reason you went into the relationship, that feeling begins to dwindle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In marriages, for instance, long term will be maybe after 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And that spark, many times when we talk about spark, is related to emotions, how you feel, just like you said, the butterflies you used to feel when you saw this person initially, you know, that love at first sight, when you could not eat, you could not sleep without thinking about the person, you could not do a day without talking to them.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like, okay, even if we don't talk for a day, I'm okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
You know, yeah, so that's that spark we are talking about right here.
So it's important to reignite this spark, right? But let's establish the reason why it's important, because people are just going about their everyday life, especially in marriage. It's still going to be there when I get home now. Do I really need this spark of a thing? Is it really that important when there are other responsibilities on the table?
Of course, sparks are very important in relationships because it is what keeps the bond alive. It is what keeps you connected to each other. When that spark is absent, you begin to drift away.
Okay.
Realize that, okay, you're not as interested as you are in the person, you know, anymore. And of course, it could also lead to infidelity because if you now meet somebody else who ignites that spark, then your attention will become divided. So you want to keep that spark alive for a lot of reasons.
Okay, so keeping the spark alive, let's see if we can find some helpful tips to give people, maybe couples who are on that 5-year, 6-year mark and maybe a little anxious about that spark dwindling. What advice do you have for them?
Okay, so I think a good place to start would be to define some terms. Number one is there is love, there is the feelings of love, and there are the acts of love. It's very important for people to be able to differentiate these three things because they are not the same thing. love is not a feeling, even though it produces feelings. So love is a decision or a commitment towards another person without expecting anything in return. Now, that love produces feelings, but it's not that feeling. Because a lot of the times when people no longer feel a certain type of way, they feel like they no longer love their partners. That's not necessarily true. Because you could love your partner and not feel like you used to feel every other day. So there's the feelings of love, and then there are the acts of love. Now, the feelings and the acts of love are related to each other. Because when the feelings of love begins to dwindle, it is actually the acts of love that will reignite the feelings of love. So when I say the acts of love, what I'm talking about is those actions that show and prove that you love this person. Many times when feelings and spark begin to dwindle in a relationship, it is many times because one partner or both partners have stopped doing certain things that they used to do before. So you want to go back to the basics. You want to ask yourself, what were those things I used to do in the beginning of this relationship that showed that I loved this person? And then you want to go back to begin to do those things. Another thing that can help is to ask your partner, how would you like to be loved? Right? And that is where the concept of love language comes in. Because there is how your partner wants to be loved. Because a lot of the times, especially if your love language is different from that of your partner, you could be loving your partner the way you want to be loved and not the way they want to be loved. And that might not be hitting the button. That might not be doing the job.
Can we give an example of maybe myself loving my partner the way I want to be loved as opposed to how they want to be loved? Give an example.
Okay, an example, a typical example is, for instance, the way I want to be loved might be spending quality time with you. And the way you want to be loved might be through receiving gifts. Now, because I perceive love as when I spend time or when you spend time with me, I always want to spend time with you. But then that's not what you want. So even though I'm spending a lot of time with you, you might not feel loved. And even though you're giving me gifts, I might not feel loved. In fact, I might say that you don't love me. And you would be like, but I love you. I give you all the things in the world. I give you this, I give you that. And then I'm like, no, that's not what I want. Because that's not how I perceive love. I would rather you spend time with me. I would rather you call me 3 times a day. I would rather you send me romantic messages than even give me all the things that you give me. Because that's how I feel loved, right? As opposed to how you feel loved.
All right. So now there are a lot of people on the train of thought of, you know, if for instance, this partner is spending money on me, you know, buying me gifts, catering to my needs, you know, the person is doing what they are, just performing their responsibilities. It doesn't seem like they are loving on you. I think also what the media has shown is love now is all those, you know, romantic walks in the park, you know, receiving flowers and making it. But then what you've essentially described here is that there are different ways people feel loved. We haven't touched on any intimacy issues here at all, because I feel like a love language has to do with intimacy as well.
Okay, so there are 5 love languages. There's quality time, words of affirmation, receiving gifts, physical touch, and acts of service. Right, these are the 5 love languages that exist. Right, and each person has a predominant love language and maybe a recessive love language, primary and secondary. And of course, physical touch can be, if it is somebody's love language, it means that they feel loved when you give them non-sexual touches.
That's holding hands.
Hugs,
maybe stroking their hair.
Stroking their hair, pats on the back, and things like that. That's how they feel loved. Yes.
So no matter how many gifts you give them?
No matter how many gifts you give them, if you are not touching them, they don't feel like you love them. Yes. That's for people who have physical touch as a love.
So if you're trying to reignite the spark by following what the media says and buying her flowers and sending her gifts and cakes, you might not be doing well.
You might not be doing well. That's why you don't want to really listen to the media, because I tell people that the fact that somebody is a celebrity or has many followers doesn't mean that they know what you're saying. So you want to listen to the right people, you want to listen to the right professionals and get the information that you need, because everybody has a way they want to be loved. So one thing you want to do is to ask your partner. In fact, there's a love language assessment. They are all over the internet, for instance, where you can take that assessment and know your love language and your partner's love language, and then begin to speak their love language. Because love language is like our normal language, right?
Yeah.
For instance,
Yeah.
you are Yoruba, I am Igbo.
Yeah.
So if I speak Igbo to you, you will definitely not understand me. If you speak Yoruba to me, except that I've lived in Lagos for a while, I might not understand you, right? And there will be communication breakdown. And in fact, at some point, we will become frustrated because we are speaking different languages. That's what happens when people are not speaking their love language in a relationship.
And that is probably one of the reasons why the spark began to die.
Begins to die in the relationship.
Wow, wow. Okay, so I think we've established that now. So now you need to figure out the love language in that relationship so that you can reignite the spark. But how do we know when it's working?
You would see it, the glow in the eyes.
Okay.
Your partner will be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you are not speaking the love language, if you're not doing what you need to do, you would see that this person is not really happy in the relationship.
Yeah.
So, but when you begin to do that, you would see that the energy in the atmosphere will change and tilt.
All right, then. Thank you so, so much. So long-term relationships need the spark to be reignited periodically. Maybe what, every half a year, 1 year?
You want to review at least once a year. Okay. To ask certain questions. What was the things I did well last year? What could we improve on, right? Because just even listening to your partner can be what it takes to reignite that spark.
Fantastic. It's a great way to wrap it up on our relationship segment for this month with Miracle Ihuoma today. Thank you so, so much for joining us through the month of August.
Thank you.
Hopefully you've learned a thing or two right here on the show today and you've had a great time with us. Now you're probably wondering, what's up with the kitchen? Well, it will be back with a bang tomorrow morning from 7 a.m. right here on Wake Up Nigeria. Mary and Winfrey are as excited as I am about the chefs coming back into the studio.
What are you talking about?
Mary
Breakfast
is the chef, actually.
Oh, really?
The show is over. Are you guys joking now?
No, we are not. We're setting you up.
Set up that is dead on arrival. You must be joking.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but are you guys serious?
Yes, we're serious. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an amazing day with you tonight. To all our viewers, we'll be back tomorrow. See you.
Bye.
Bye.